Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Money Matters, proudly brought to you by Nedbank Insurance. I'm Ropwa Madzena and it's always a pleasure to be with you. Can you believe it? It's July already. That means one thing in the money world. Happy Savings Month, South Africa. Hopefully you're now halfway towards your saving goals for the year. This month, we continue with our financial education conversations with a focus on insurance. A misunderstanding of what your insurance covers you for can erode your savings or even land you in debt. If you're like me, insurance might have felt like that grown-up thing you always meant to get around to right up until life gave you a reminder that grown-up things do matter. Whether it's your car, your fridge, your roof, or your loved ones, cover matters when the unexpected knocks. I remember chatting to someone who was in a bumper-to-bumper fender bender on their way to work. No one was hurt, but the damage to their car made their hearts sink. They didn't know if they were covered for minor accidents or what their access was. That moment of panic, it could have been avoided with a better understanding of their policy. Because when you know what's covered and what's not, you respond with confidence and, of course, not chaos. So here's the thing. Insurance isn't just about having a policy. It's about understanding it, knowing what you're covered for and what to do when something goes wrong. Because, and let's be real about this, what you don't know about your insurance can cost you. And sometimes it's money, not just the stress. Sometimes it's the time. Sometimes it's unnecessary stress, like I say. And most times it's all three. Today, we're hoping to fix that because the truth is many South Africans take out insurance without ever reading their policy documents or having them explained thoroughly by a financial advisor. Then, when it's time to claim, there's often confusion, frustration, or worse, rejection. That's what we're going to be unpacking today. What to look forward to in your policy, your rights and responsibility as a policyholder, why premiums increase, and what is covered in your policy, and of course, what's not. Any waiting period before you claim, and how to make a successful claim should the worst happen. And of course, how to lodge complaints when you are not happy with the service given to you by your insurance provider. As usual, we've got a guest expert in studio and other guests who will share their lessons with us. We will take some of your questions as well, so don't worry about that. Let's get into it.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Today, I'm joined in studio by Sherryl Harding-Klusener, who is the head of product risk and support at Nedbank Insurance. Now, Sherryl has 15 years experience in the insurance industry, where she was specializing in operations, portfolio management, and various technical product and risk elements. You can safely say that she lives and breathes insurance. She holds a full qualification in short-term insurance, a qualification in risk management, and a postgraduate diploma in management. And she's currently in the first year of a master's in business administration. Sherryl is a fellow of the Insurance Institute of South Africa and president of the Insurance Institute of KwaZulu-Natal. She's here to help us unpack everything we need to know about understanding our cover and making insurance work for, you guessed it, us. Welcome, Sherryl. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Rolf. It's absolutely great to be here and to be part of helping to make insurance easier to understand.
Yeah, now in our last episode, we had Angela who helped us understand the claims process, from what documents you need to know and which ones you need to submit and why delays can happen. But one thing stood out throughout that conversation. It all begins with understanding your insurance cover, knowing exactly what you're covered for and the terms and conditions that apply, which is all essential. That's well before you even get to the claim when the unexpected happens, right? One of the most frustrating experiences for policyholders is having a claim rejected, especially when they believe that they were covered, only to find out that they weren't. So let's start there, Sherryl. How common is this?
Absolutely, Ralph. We see this far too often in the insurance industry. And it's exactly why we are committed to facilitating these educational conversations and really help make people understand what to pay attention for when taking out their insurance cover. The reality is that many people don't fully understand what they've signed up for. There's an assumption that I have insurance, I'm sorted, I'm covered for everything, but that's not always the case. Not all cover is the same. Every policy comes with its own set of terms and conditions, limits, exclusions, and ongoing responsibilities from your side as the clients as well, and these details matter. It is important to remember that an insurance policy is a legal contract, and just like any contract, it spells out what the insurer commits to and what you as the client are expected to do in return. So yes, what's covered, what's excluded, and what your responsibilities are absolutely critical.
That really does put things into perspective, Cheryl. We don't often think of our insurance policy as a contract, but that's exactly what it is, right? So for anyone listening to us right now who wants to make sure that they're not missing any critical details in their cover, what should they be paying attention to?
It starts with whether you need insurance or not. And if you do need insurance, how much cover do you need? What type of cover do you need? Remember that every one of us is different, so our insurance needs are going to be different as well. Your cover needs to be based on the risk, the consequences of loss or damage, and also what you can afford to pay monthly to insure against those risks. So let's say someone owns a home. What do I insure it for? That's probably the biggest question that most people ask. So we like to look at it as, if your home burns down to the ground, what will it cost to build that home from the ground up? That is your rebuild value, and that's what you need to insure your home against. At Nedbank Insurance, we like to take a holistic view. We want to consider our clients' needs, family dynamics, and financial realities. Because life changes, people move, you renovate your house, you get married, and you start a family. So we recommend that you review your policy at least once a year, and that way you can ensure that your cover keeps up with your life.
Okay, so it's about asking myself, do I need cover to start with? For what? And for how much based on my personal circumstances? That much is clear, right, Cheryl? So what next do I need to think about?
The next important thing is to look at the various insurance cover options in the market and see what suits you best. It's important that you also don't just look for the cheapest option, but also ensure that you're taking out cover with a registered, credible entity that you can trust. The last thing that you want to do is find out at claim stage that you've been scammed when you thought you were paying for insurance. What you can do is check with registered bodies like the FSCA, then they are able to confirm that you are actually dealing with a licensed financial service provider or not. We operate in a highly regulated industry, and there are many watchdogs looking out for your best interest. Another important element is to make sure that you don't have unnecessary duplicated policies, as with some types of cover, they will only pay out once. In the industry, it's commonly known as dual insurance. You need to look at your insurance portfolio holistically. We like to think of it as like building a house. Just like you don't need 2 roofs on your house, you don't need multiple policies covering the same thing.
That is such an important point, Cheryl, ensuring that you are dealing with a licensed insurer that you can trust. I mean, we've heard way too many stories of people who've discovered at claim stage that they have been defrauded and do not have the cover that they were promised. So it's all starting to make a little bit more sense for us now, you know. And one other thing I keep hearing out there is that there are too many terms and conditions apply. You know, everybody knows that term. We hear it often. What are common or important conditions people must look out for when you see that term and conditions apply?
Policy documents can be overwhelming and are perceived as boring, but I cannot reiterate enough the importance of going through your policy documents regardless of where you get your insurance cover from. At Nedbank Insurance, we are always working to try and make our documents simpler and easier to understand. Policy documents will detail any terms and conditions, exclusions, waiting periods that are applicable to that policy. A waiting period is a specified time period that must pass before you can claim for certain instances. So for example, many people think funeral cover pays out immediately no matter what, but normally there's a 6-month waiting period for death due to natural causes. This is a very important term and condition. However, if someone passes away due to an accident, that would typically be covered immediately. Waiting periods work to protect against people taking out cover only as it is needed, or actually when a claim has already occurred or is about to occur, and this is commonly known as anti-selection. With life cover, if someone didn't disclose a pre-existing medical condition during their application, this could also impact payout at claim stage. When it comes to short-term insurance, like your car or your household contents, clients often overlook their ongoing client responsibilities. Say your policy requires you to have a working burglar alarm. If it wasn't activated when you weren't at home, this could also affect the claim. And these are the important details that are found in your policy wording and on your policy schedule. So it really is so important to go through your T's and C's, and this will actually inform you whether a claim would be valid or not.
Thank you very much for those very interesting insights. We really do appreciate them, Cheryl. I mean, there you have it. Make sure that you understand all the terms and conditions which apply to your policy, and where things are not clear, make sure you ask your insurer. It will spare you the risk and frustration of having your claim declined when you are expecting your insurance to, of course, cover it. After this short break, we're going to hear from some South Africans who've had real life experiences with insurance. You don't want to miss that.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Welcome back to Money Matters, brought to you by Nedbank Insurance. Now, before the break, we explored what it really means to understand your insurance policy. Not just the price you pay, but the protection you've chosen. Now, as we've heard, misunderstanding your cover can lead to disappointment at the time of a claim. Let's listen to some of the stories from insurance clients, and I have no doubt you may also know someone with a similar story. Let's hear from Avril Slater. You join us originally from Durban, but with us today. Tell us about your story.
Well, my name is Avril and I live in Durban. My geyser burst and I put through a claim which was declined because when the inspectors came, they saw the watermarks on the ceiling and they said that it was due to neglect, not maintaining it properly. So that was a 10,000 Rand lesson for me. So now I have to check my policy yearly and service my geyser and keep my home in good condition. So it's really been a sore lesson for me. So please, 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 will everybody take the time to read their policies and check their documents and get their insurers to explain anything that they do not understand.
Thank you very much for sharing your story, Avril. And it's shocking to know that it was a 10,000 Rand lesson that you learned from this experience. But it was a lesson nonetheless. You know what not to do going forward. And that's a very important thing, Cheryl. The maintenance and upkeep of your home is just as important as understanding exactly what is contained in your policy document.
Maintenance is a very important element of homeowners cover, and it's something that we at Nedbank Insurance are very passionate about educating our clients on. And this is to help them avoid unnecessary frustration and disappointment at claim stage. We have a maintenance-related document that we call Handy Hints, and we send this to our clients with their anniversary documentation every year. It also gives our clients some important information of what to do when they're going on holiday, things like turning your geyser off and also making sure that your taps are secure.
Huitsimang Kemp, your story and really just how it affected you.
Yeah, so I'm Huitsimang and I'm from Pretoria, and I got my car stolen, right, in the parking lot of a shopping center.
Must have been traumatizing.
I thought I was covered, but my claim was denied. Why? It was because I hadn't told my insurer that I was using my car as a taxi. Now, initially, when I took out my policy, I was working at Rosslyn, and I was just using the car for like personal errands and things as such. And I never updated my insurance, right? Unfortunately, I didn't tell my insurance that I was using my car for as a taxi. Rather, it was incredibly frustrating. Luckily, my car was eventually recovered, although it did come back with some damage. I really wish that insurance companies would do more to educate us regularly about these specific conditions. And also, I've learned to keep up, right, and let my insurer know about all the circumstances that may change.
Yeah, I mean, Cheryl, that's a very important point that she raises there, understanding and knowing the conditions of your policy. And maybe just explain that to us a little further.
Kloetsemang is right. The insurance industry can do a lot to simplify policy documents and use simple, easy to understand language. It is our obsession at Nedbank Insurance to achieve this benefit for our clients. This is also why we sponsor these educational conversations, that we hope that it benefits everyone regardless of where you might have your insurance. But back to Kloetsemang's story. It really is so important that if there is any change in your circumstance or your assets, your insurer needs to know so that they can adjust your policy accordingly. Some examples of this would be selling your car, changing your car, and even who's driving the car. Those are risk changes that matter. What you are using your car for, is it for business or for personal use? So updates to your home, if you've done any upgrades or renovations, so that your sum insured can be updated so that you can be paid out appropriately should there be a loss. Moving home, where your car is parked, and things like changes in security are also really important for your insurer to know. This kind of information is important as it changes the risk. And it doesn't only affect your policy and the cover, but it can also trigger a change in premium. And they can also trigger a change in requirements. So for example, if you move to another area, you may be required to install an alarm. If you're in a gated estate, there are different security requirements for different areas as well. So if there are changes to a policy, you need to let your insurer know. They can adjust the risk and they'll let you know what that new premium is going to be. There are also changes that can actually help you save money. For example, putting a tracker on your vehicle, installing alarm systems, and also changes in risk. So where you park your car might be less of a risk. You can pay less premiums.
Kloetsemang, when you decided to start using your car for small business, did you just maybe think, well, you're driving the car anyway, it doesn't change anything? Tell me what thought process you went through there.
So also, initially, I was working in Roslyn, as I mentioned. I think I just thought I'd just be parking my car in safe spaces anyway. It's not like using my car as a taxi would change either like the mileage or anything else. It's still my car and I'm still driving it, right? But to my dismay, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. And I just want to come back to you in terms of lessons that you may have learned from your experience, and really just how you protect yourself from making sure that you are not going out of pocket again, Avril.
I get someone to come in and do regular checks on the geyser and keep the gutters clean and make sure that there's no dripping water unnecessarily. And just maintain everything properly.
Just to make sure that you're not caught off guard.
Yes.
I'm actually very interested in this whole phenomenon of maintenance versus destroying from a leak or whatever. We've seen a lot of floods, for example, in KZN, Eastern Cape, parts of the Western Cape, and homes are being destroyed. How does an insurance company navigate that particular component to say the house was purely destroyed by the floods, or if there was some form of negligence on the part of the homeowner?
That's an interesting question, Rob. So we have a very crucial part of our claims process where we involve loss adjusters or claims assessors. So they are able to ascertain whether damage is pre-existing, if it's new damage, and this can happen on homes, cars, etc. Obviously, there will be circumstances that if a home is totally destroyed, they're not going to be able to establish what was old, what was new, but then you're looking at a different insured event. You're looking at a total loss, so previous damage wouldn't really be relevant there. But if you're looking at possibly just claiming on your roof, they're going to look at the roof. They're going to see, have you maintained it, what condition it's in, and is it old damage or is it new damage relating to something that you're claiming for now, and is it covered or should it be covered?
So are we seeing then a little bit more policy shifts or exclusions when it comes to flood-related incidents, in terms of perhaps your policy will now look at where your house has been built and things like that, just as insurers adjust to the extreme weather conditions that are happening, and the list goes on?
Absolutely. So part of the risk assessment is obviously establishing where your home is. Is it on a flood line? Is it near a river or a dam? What is the likelihood that that river is going to overflow? How many times has it overflowed? So they'll always look at a physical assessment of your home and look at the risks associated to that. So how also, some of the other things could be, how far are you from the nearest fire station? How far are you from the nearest police station. And that can also determine what risk mitigation factors the insurer can then ask you. So, for example, if you are a certain distance away from a fire station, you might then be asked to do some additional risk mitigation in terms of fire extinguishers, things like that. So that also takes into account. So they'll always do a physical assessment of your home, and they can assess the risk to say, do we want to cover that or not? And there are risks that insurers don't want to cover.
Yeah. And then I think that's purely because of the cost, or what is the reason?
So I think it's a combination of cost and risk, and also whether the premium is even going to be affordable to the client. Remember, the higher the risk, the higher the premium. So there are certain things that are what we call uninsurable, but also the higher the risk, you're going to land up paying more. And is it going to be affordable for you, or is it something that you're going to have to self-insure because no insurer is prepared to take that risk depending on what it is?
And are you finding that insurance companies are doing that they are looking certain instances and saying no more now than previously maybe?
Absolutely. With the changes in weather and climate, etc., insurers are having to be proactive. They're having to reassess risks more frequently and be a little bit more strict on it. And it also, as I mentioned earlier, it needs to be affordable for the client. As we said earlier when we were talking about policy T's and C's, it's impossible for every event to be covered. And it obviously then boils down to affordability as well. So it's a balance of the risk for the insurer, the premium for the client, and unfortunately there are undesirable risks that insurers and reinsurers aren't interested in.
Yeah. Avril, did you think about that at all when you were, I suppose you didn't do it, but your policy in terms of making sure that you were maintaining your home so that you wouldn't have to eventually claim, was cost a concern for you?
Definitely. But also, we look at the things that are just here in front of us, whereas a geyser is away, it's not in sight, so you don't think about them. And hard lessons to learn.
Yeah, hard lessons to learn indeed. And for you, Hoytman, the reason you didn't perhaps update your insurance provider, is it because you hadn't taken a look at your policy document, which is something that we've been talking about, or you had and then you thought maybe you're going to need to pay more? So perhaps you just thought, I can get away with this.
I didn't even consider the cost, maybe either like increasing or decreasing. I think to your point, Cheryl, I heard that, insurance companies consider cost and risk. I didn't think about the risk. You know what I mean? I just thought I'm just driving my car and I'm going to park it safely as I usually do. So yeah, that was negligent on my side.
Yeah. So that's a hard lesson for you as well. Did you have to foot the bill for the car yourself?
I did, because it came back with some damage. My windscreen.
So it was recovered?
It was recovered, luckily. No thanks to insurance.
Yeah.
It was recovered, and I'd had some damage, but I was able to fix it.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
But that was a cost that you didn't have to incur.
I didn't have to, yes.
So what lessons does this teach you about, making sure you know what's in your policy document, and the list goes on?
It's definitely reading handy hints, as Cheryl mentioned. And also, I now also speak to my insurer a lot more to find out new policies that maybe changes that are being made. And also I let them know because now also I've changed my car. So I'm more in conversation with my insurance.
Yeah. And you, Avril, it's not just the geyser that you're maintaining, I'm sure.
No, you have to maintain everything, because that was a big cost. You got to replace the ceiling boards and all the water damage,
the walls.
Yes, repaint, and it was really costly. So you need to read your policy properly and make sure you understand everything that's in there, and ask questions all the time.
Yeah.
That's music to your ears, I'm sure, isn't it?
It is, and it's something that we're very passionate about, is client education. And I just want to reiterate that your insurer is there to help you. They're your friend, not your enemy. If there's something you don't understand, if something is unclear in your policy, pick up the phone and ask, and we're there to help you.
Why do you think that happens, that people just don't ask and they'll just take for granted that they're covered, only for them to discover, like we've heard in this instance, that they're not?
I think when we mentioned earlier about policy documents being overwhelming, they're boring, no one wants to read them, you make this assumption. And I think as we go back to what we said earlier about I pay my premiums, I'm covered. So why must I read my documents? I should be covered for everything. But in actual fact, unfortunately, we can't cover everything. So yeah, again, just to go back to read your document. If there's anything you don't understand, phone your insurer. If you have a broker, reach out to your broker. They're there to help you.
Are brokers still a thing that people can make use of?
Absolutely. They play a very vital role in the insurance life cycle, and they are experts in what they do. And, reach out to them. They're there to help you navigate claims, understand policies, make sure your risks are underwritten properly.
It's absolutely very important to know. And I'm just interested, well, as you were talking, I was just thinking about, as a busy working parent, young person, whatever it is, you don't always have time to read through your policy. So do you have any tips of highlights within the policy that I could quickly skim through if I don't have time to call a broker at any particular time, but I need to make sure I understand at least the basics of what I'm covered for?
Cool. I think mostly look at your policy schedule. As we said earlier, the policy schedule is really a snapshot of your cover. So it will give you a high-level overview of sections that are covered, amounts that are covered, excesses that might be applicable. I think excess is also really an important one, because often we don't know what our excesses are, or we haven't really looked as to what our excesses are. And these can often come as a surprise when you have to claim and you go, what, I have to pay 5,000 Rand excess because you didn't read your document, or you forgot that, there's an excess applicable, etc. So the policy schedule is really important because it really highlights the high level sections, limits, etc. And also with your T's and C's, if I had to say, the most important part of your T's and C's are your exclusions. And I know that probably the most boring part, because it's a list of no.
Yeah.
But they really are important. And I think it will really help clients navigate what is not covered, because we do have expectations that everything is covered. So I think if you had to take any section out your policy term and conditions, read your exclusions, because that will really help you avoid frustration and disappointment, because there will always be specific things that are not covered.
Yeah, I mean, that brings to the fore this question I have around comprehensive insurance. So even when you have comprehensive insurance, there are exclusions that you're going to have to consider as well.
Yep. So comprehensive insurance is obviously the widest coverage that you can get. But even as you said, it can't possibly cover everything. So there'll always be things that are specifically excluded. So we were talking earlier about driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Driving an unroadworthy vehicle can affect your claim, for example. To your story about what I use my car for. And I think that's probably a really pertinent one for us, is if we don't know, we can't assess the risk properly. And I think people do look at it as a premium thing as well, because it's a natural assumption that if I use my car more, or if I use it for business, I'm going to pay more premium. So I think what people do is I'll just use it. I'll put it under personal use, and we'll kind of see what happens, which isn't a great approach, because for us, the risk is different. Someone who drives their vehicle to work and back, and maybe goes to the mall and back, for example, is a very different risk from someone who drives to see 5 or 6 clients during a day. They're out on the road more. They are a greater risk. But the natural assumption is same car, same person.
Exactly.
And I think that's where the confusion then comes in. Say, well, why should I pay more? Because I'm driving this car, but we look at it from a risk perspective as well. We need to assess what we need to cover for each person and obviously vehicle.
Yeah. And when we talk about the third party cover as well, when it comes to the vehicles, what exactly is it that we're referring to there?
So third party cover is quite simple. It will cover you if you cause damage to someone else's vehicle. So if I'm driving my car and I accidentally cause an accident, my insurance will cover for the other person's vehicle to be covered. It won't pay for my own repairs, but it will pay for your repairs because I damaged your car.
I see you nodding vigorously there when she was speaking about, using your vehicle for clients. And so obviously a lot of lessons learned for you, and you're obviously in a better position with the insurance provider.
100%. I'm more in conversation with them now. And I think also it's helped me, to also understand the terms and the conditions that come with the specific policy that I have. So yeah, it's been very helpful.
Yeah, so you've got a better sense, Avril, of your policy as well in terms of the T's and C's and the policy schedule as we've just been discussing.
Absolutely, yes. So I take more care in reading any insurance or policies that I have, and I do it regularly, not just when you sign up. So you got to keep in contact with what's going on all the time.
And things change in our lives,
All
so
the time.
updates you need to be
Yes.
able to give them as well.
Like after I lost my job, I had to tell my insurer, but I didn't because I just thought same car, same person.
Yeah.
Right. But after going through that lesson, I now learned that I need to communicate a lot more.
And I suppose even though you're not claiming anymore, we hope you don't claim, touch wood, you don't feel like you're wasting your money, right?
Right. Because also now I know what's included and what's not. Right. And also I now know that my premiums cover this and don't cover certain things. So it's been very helpful to read those things. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel the same, Avril?
Yes, because you get lazy to read the fine print, and yet that is the important stuff that you need to know. So it's just a matter of breathing and sitting down and going through it and knowing what is at stake.
And I suppose the important thing there is they don't feel like they're being wasteful, because we unfortunately are in the middle of a cost of living crisis, and you cut costs wherever you can. And for some households, the first thing to go is insurance, right, Cheryl? So I think it's important for our viewers and listeners to know that it's not a waste, even if you don't claim.
I think I also wanted to reiterate that insurance is an ongoing conversation. We're there to help you. And, that's one of the reasons why we don't just give you, when you sign up, we're going to say, here's your T's and C's, go and read them, and we never talk to you again. So we actually have a requirement as insurers to communicate with our policyholders every year. Part of that communication will be giving you the policy T's and C's again. So we don't expect you to know those off by heart, but we do expect you to read them. But it's something that we're doing in terms of continuous education. How can we educate our clients? How can we help them understand the T's and C's? How can we keep reminding you that you have a policy, this is what's covered, these are your responsibilities? So it really is an ongoing conversation and not just a once-off when you take the policy out.
And I suppose that will also make people understand that you're not trying to reject claims. The policy document is there to make sure that you're able to pay them should a claim come through.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said earlier, we're in the business of paying valid claims as quickly as we can. But unfortunately, there are going to be circumstances where a claim is not going to be paid. And we understand that it's frustrating for clients. So we try and minimize that as much as possible, but we're there to help. That's what you pay your insurance for. We try to give you peace of mind, provided that you also adhere to your part of the bargain as well.
Adhering to your part of the bargain. Ladies, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I've absolutely enjoyed you sharing your experience with us, the lessons that you've learned, and hopefully some of our listeners can take something away from that as well. And Sherryl, for your expertise, we thank you very much. You've done a lot for us today, busted a lot of myths, and taught us a lot about policy documents and what we as insurance policy holders need to be cognizant of whenever we have our policies. Read, and understand, I think, is the gist of the matter. Thank you so much. So you've heard there, Khoitsimang and Avril's stories remind us that insurance isn't just paperwork. It's personal. It's about protecting what matters most, and that starts with understanding your cover. So here's your challenge. Take 10 minutes this week to read your policy schedule. Check what you're covered for and what you're not. Ask your insurer questions if anything is unclear. And if you've had an experience, good or bad, share it with us. Your story could help someone else avoid a costly mistake. When we come back from the break, we get more insights and lessons from our guest.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Welcome back. We're talking about key details you need to pay attention to in your insurance policy. We've heard about real life details like a leak you didn't fix, or how you use your car can impact whether your claim is paid or not. This is exactly why we need to talk about exclusions, because sometimes it's not about the cover you have, but about the things you think are covered but are not. Cheryl, What should clients know about exclusions?
Exclusions are the specific situations and conditions that your policy doesn't cover. It could be something like damage caused by neglect, like Mundler's ignored leak, or using a personal car for business purposes without disclosing that. Things like wear and tear, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, even life cover has exclusions, like pre-existing conditions that weren't shared when applying for the policy. At Nedbank Insurance, we want to make these exclusions clear in our policy documents, and it's so important for clients to read through these sections and also ask for help if anything is unclear. The exclusion section of your policy wording is one of the most important sections, so please, we urge you to read through those carefully.
And for anyone who's new to insurance, or maybe someone who has had a policy but never actually read it, what exactly is a policy schedule?
Your policy schedule is a summary of your cover. It outlines who's covered, what's covered, how much you're covered for, and what are the expectations on both sides. It really is a clear snapshot of your contract. For example, it can tell you your sum insured, like the rebuild value as we spoke about earlier, your life cover amount. It shows you your premium amount, how often you pay it, and on which day of the month it's due. It outlines whether your premium will increase over time or is likely to stay the same. It highlights responsibilities and exclusions, just like we discussed. Along with your policy schedule, your insurer will give you your policy terms and conditions, where it outlines the very important claims process to be followed, as well as other important information.
Yeah, indeed. But what if we get to an instance where someone is unhappy with how their claim or query has been handled? What options are available to them?
The first point of call would always be to your insurer for resolution, but if that complaint isn't resolved to your satisfaction, clients can take it further to the National Financial Ombudsman. But remember, there's a time limit. Complaints need to be lodged with the Ombudsman within 6 months of the last correspondence from your insurer.
Thank you so much for that. We really do appreciate that clarity. It's incredibly helpful to know where to turn when things don't go as planned. So let's wrap this up, and then after the break, we get into our segment where we bust some claims myths.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
We're nearing the end of the show, but it wouldn't be a Money Matters episode without busting a few insurance myths. I'm going to put my myths to our guest, and they'll give us the real facts behind some of the fiction out there. Sherryl, the first myth: insurance always covers everything.
Unfortunately, it would be unaffordable for your insurance policy to be able to cover every possible event or scenario. And it's important to understand what your policy covers and what isn't covered. Different types of policies will offer cover for specific events or losses. And as a policyholder, you also have the responsibility to safeguard your assets as best possible, meaning that you need to lock your vehicle when it's unattended. You need to lock up your home, put on the alarm when you're not there, and also don't leave your personal belongings unattended in public spaces. Unfortunately, we live in a crime-ridden world, and we cannot expect to leave our handbag on the beach and go for a swim and expect it to be there when we come back. And this is a reality that we live with, but we do look for peace of mind knowing that our assets are protected against unforeseen circumstances. Another common myth about insurance paying for everything is also around driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and most, if not all, insurers will most likely exclude this. So if you cause an accident under the influence, you can expect the claim to be rejected, not just because it's excluded on the policy, but also because it's against the law. And as an insurer, we also want to make sure that our policies don't contradict the law.
Yeah, that's absolutely true and vital knowledge to have. The next myth, Sherryl, is that cheaper premiums mean better value.
Cheaper doesn't always mean better, and a low-cost policy might not meet your real needs. As a breadwinner of a home with kids or extended family, you need to make sure that your insurance covers them and not just your budget. True value comes from knowing that you have the right cover that matches your needs. A lower premium might mean less cover or higher excess payments when you do claim. So it's really important to look at the value you're getting. As mentioned before, what's covered, how claims are handled, and whether the insurer is reputable. Cheap can be costly if it doesn't protect you when it matters the most. Also remember that there are many different types of cover available, and the wider the coverage you're asking for, the higher the premium's going to be. A good example of this would be vehicle cover. So say I had a really old vehicle that wasn't financed anymore and it wasn't worth much. I may just want to opt for covering the vehicle in case I cause damage to another vehicle. This is known as third-party cover, versus getting comprehensive cover for your car, which would cover third parties, fire, theft, and damage. Your premium is going to be quite different. We also understand that times are tough and everyone is looking to save money. So when starting your insurance portfolio, we go back to the analogy of building a house. You could start with the foundations, like funeral and life cover, build up your walls, meaning asset cover for your home or your vehicle or medical cover, and then we put the roof on. So what else do I need? What other value adds? Pet insurance? Remember that all our needs are different. So my priority might be life cover, yours might be insuring your home. But we all need to start somewhere. And remember that you can build your insurance coverage as your life changes. Start with something, as it is better than having nothing at all.
Better than having nothing at all, indeed. Let's move over to the third myth, Cheryl. You don't need to update your insurer when your life or circumstances in your life change.
So we covered a lot about changes to risk in Neo's story, but life changes mean insurance changes. A new baby, a new job, moving, marriage will all affect your cover. Failing to update can lead to underinsurance and even denied claims. Insurance should grow with your life, and if something big in your life has changed, your cover should reflect it.
The fourth myth, claims are always rejected. I think that's a big one.
This is a common misperception. The majority of valid claims in South Africa are paid out. Most rejections actually happen because of non-disclosure or policy misunderstandings. Trustworthy insurers help you avoid both. When you understand what your policy covers and you keep that information accurate, your claims aren't just likely, they're protected by law. Reputable insurers like Nedbank Insurance are committing to paying valid claims. We're in the business of paying valid claims as quickly as possible. Most disputes arise from misunderstanding about cover or missed responsibilities, and that is why understanding your policy and keeping your information up to date are both so important.
Oh, here's one that I think is going to be very relevant in our cost of living crisis, and we don't want to spend money, but we have to. If I've never claimed, is the fifth myth, then I've wasted my money.
That's a common myth, but it's not true. Insurance isn't just about claiming, it's about peace of mind. Think of it as a safety net. You hope to never need it, but you're glad that it's there when life takes an unexpected turn. Plus, many insurers offer benefits for claim-free periods, lower premiums, loyalty rewards. So no, money hasn't been wasted. It's been quietly working in the background, keeping you protected.
Yeah, thank you so much for busting those myths for us, Cheryl. We really do appreciate it. And there you have it, facts over fiction. We've covered a lot today, but the message is clear. Insurance only works when you understand it. Know what you're covered for. Keep your policy up to date and never be afraid to ask any questions. And speaking of questions, we've got some of your voice notes of some things you want to know from our expert today, and we're going to listen to those, and she's going to answer those questions that you have.
Hello, my name is Lindiwe Khoza. So we have heard stories about some insurance companies that refuse to pay life cover for a person who, for example, died in a car accident, but then the insurance comes back to say that the person didn't disclose that they had a heart problem when they took out the policy. Please help us understand why this is so common in the insurance space. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very interesting and important question, Cheryl.
When you sign up for insurance, you're entering a trust agreement. You promise to tell the insurer everything that they need to know so they can properly assess the risk that they're taking on, especially when it comes to your health. If you don't, and later you then make a claim, the insurer might say, wait a minute, you didn't tell us about that condition. And that changes the risk, which changes your policy. And they can actually refuse to pay if you didn't properly disclose all your health conditions at the time of taking the policy, even though they might not seem relevant at the time. So remember, always be honest and upfront when applying for insurance. It protects you, your family, and your peace of mind. So some key takeaways for policyholders. Always disclose all your known medical conditions, even if they seem minor or unrelated to you. Don't rely on previous disclosures. Each new policy requires fresh and complete information. So if your claim is rejected, make sure that the insurer provides you with a clear written explanation as to why your claim was declined so that you can consider your future options.
Okay, let's take a listen to the second voice note.
Hi, my name is Naledi Tumawute. Is there any waiting period on Nedbank Insurance funeral and life cover?
That's a very good question.
Yes, there is. So on our funeral cover, there will be a 6-month waiting period, and that is for death due to natural causes. And this is a common waiting period across the industry. For life cover, we don't have a specific waiting period, but the policy is subject to pre-existing conditions, meaning that any pre-existing condition that you had before the policy is taken out, that is generally not covered for a specific time period.
Okay, let's take a listen to the third voice note.
I don't think insurance companies are doing enough to educate people about what is not covered in their policies. We are dealing with low literacy society here. How can you help the people out there to not have surprises when they claim?
And that's a very important question because it kind of goes back to what we've been discussing around going through your policy document, but also understanding the different nuances of whatever it is that you are agreeing to with an insurance provider.
At Nedbank Insurance, we are committed to ensuring that our clients are well informed and that we are always doing ongoing education to help them understand what's covered and what's not. And the industry is doing the same as well. One of the biggest changes they're making is trying to always look at making policy documents simpler and easier to understand.
Let's take a listen to another voice note.
What is the qualifying age for my grandparents to still get funeral cover?
So all funeral policies will have what we call a maximum entry age, which is the oldest that you can be when you start the policy. For grandparents specifically, that's 75 years old. If you are over 75, we cannot offer you a policy.
So there's nothing you can do for me if my grandparents are at the age of 80 or above?
Unfortunately not, no.
Okay, thank you for that. We do have a WhatsApp question that I'd like to read out for you. So I want insurance cover that will not give me issues on some technicalities. I just want to know that when I pay my life cover premiums, my family will be paid. What can I do to ensure that there are no stories told to me or my family if anything ever happened to me?
I think, Ralph, it goes back to understanding your policy terms and conditions and making sure that you've disclosed everything, particularly with life cover. Life cover shouldn't be complicated, but as long as you've disclosed all the information up front, and unfortunately, if you do pass away from something that's not covered, there shouldn't be any other reason why your life cover wouldn't pay out unless it's specifically excluded.
Okay.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.
Today, we unpacked everything from what's in your policy to what exclusions mean and how your responsibilities as a policyholder can make or break a claim. Because let's be honest, it's not enough to just have insurance. You need to understand it. And since it's Savings Month, I want to leave you with this. Knowing your insurance cover can be part of your saving strategy. A claim that's paid because you did the right thing, now that's a win. A premium that stays accurate because your details are up to date, that's another one. Avoiding nasty financial shocks, that's savings in action. So here's a checklist of what to look out for in every one of your insurance policies. Know exactly what you're covered for and of course what you're not. Understand your exclusions and waiting periods. Track when your premiums go up and why this is happening. Update your details as life does change, we all know this. Review your cover so it grows with you and know how to claim with confidence. Insurance doesn't have to be complicated, but we do understand that it can be overwhelming with all the different types of cover available: funeral policies, life insurance, credit life insurance, homeowners cover, household contents, motor insurance, cell phone insurance, pet insurance, and the list goes on. But did you know that you can even buy insurance for your wedding? Yes, you can. A great tip would be to have a list of the policies that you have and keep this in a safe place. It can really help you or your family members in a crisis when trying to deal with insurance and financial matters. This week, I challenge you to take just 10 minutes and read your policy schedule. If something's unclear, don't guess, just ask. Your insurer is always ready to help. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Got a question? A lesson you've learned the hard way? We'd love to hear from you and maybe feature your story in our next episode. Until next time, stay informed, stay insured, and this July, make every policy rand count. I'm Ropwa Madzena, and thank you for tuning in.
Money Matters, powered by Nedbank Insurance. Insurance you can bank on every day.